When the pandemic settled on the state back in March, state courts closed and the judicial system briefly ground to a halt. But since then, the judicial branch has been developing its practices so that justice can still be served.
Joining us this morning is the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court, the Honorable Richard A. Robinson. Welcome, Chief Justice. Has the surge in infections in Connecticut disrupted your plan to reopen the courts?
One thing I sort of want to straighten out is we never closed. I know that some people think we did. We closed down some locations and some functions, but we never closed. Under our continuing organization operation plan, our COOP plan, we have plans for situations just like this. And we go into whatever mode is required to make sure the court operations continue. So we were doing basically level one things, making sure that the criminal process is still continued. Now, of course, that meant we had to cut back on some things, and we have to worry about things such as our stakeholders' health and our employees' health and safety and things, and the judges, of course. But we were able to tackle that in pretty quick time and get operating on a level that I think did great service to the people of the state of Connecticut.
So, Your Honor, are hearings taking place by Zoom? Are there still jury trials? Give us a sense of the lay of the land.
Right. We've gone mostly virtual. We're not using Zoom. We're using Microsoft Teams because it was more compatible with our systems. A lot of things are done by Teams. We just finished, for example, an argument before the Supreme Court on the Teams platform. And that actually has worked out very, very well. Now, there's some functions that require close-up in-person kind of things, and jury trials is one, and you just mentioned that. That's a lot more difficult, especially criminal jury trials. We're up and about to start one until the more recent surge of COVID came along. And I basically have to balance a couple of different things. One is the safety of the people who use our systems. And the other one is people's constitutional rights. And so it's an incredibly difficult balancing act in these times. But we are going to move forward as quickly as we can. But the caveat is going to be, we're going to keep in mind that this is a really serious thing. And to have people come in to do their constitutional duty of jury duty, I don't want them to be afraid to walk into the building. I want them to know that they're going to be adequately protected. And that goes for the lawyers and all our stakeholders too.
And also, you don't want jurors, I imagine, to be hurrying to reach a decision. Because
absolutely. So you are absolutely correct with that.
With that in mind, are criminal defendants being given their constitutional right to a speedy trial in Connecticut?
Yes, you have to remember that speedy trial requires a bunch of things, and those are conditions you can give that trial. For example, right now, I don't think anybody would want us to put people in jeopardy, including the defendants and the lawyers, in jeopardy to fulfill that constitutional obligation. So we're moving forward as quickly as we can. We are thinking out of the box on how to conduct jury trials. I've got teams of people working on this. And so we're trying to be as imaginative as possible. I said earlier that our COOP plan was designed to deal with emergency things, but I don't think anyone foresaw something lasting this long. You're talking about a year, maybe 2 years of this. So we really have to have very imaginative people. One of my biggest worries right now is how tired the team of administrators is becoming from just working around the clock. I'm very concerned about that.
Is there much of a backlog at this point?
No, I would say there's not much of a backlog, except for certain areas. There's certain things, for example, as an executive order, we can't go forward with housing type cases, evictions. So there's going to be a backlog with that. But we are planning to deal with that backlog too. So when we know that when we start opening the systems more and more, it's going to be very problematic. But I've got a great team of people thinking about this. Whether it's the marshals at the front door or my chief court administrator, all of us are thinking about how to handle this and how to best serve the people of the state of Connecticut.
Your Honor, some officials in Hartford have blamed low bail set by judges in criminal matters for a spike in violence in Hartford. Are they right?
I don't think so. And I talked to the chief court administrator about that, and we looked at the data, and the data doesn't bear that out, not at all. I can understand people looking for easy answers for things and easy solutions, but these are complex problems. I think in general, if you look at what's going on, the stress level for everyone is much higher than it used to be. But as far as us releasing people and things of that nature, no, the statistics don't bear that. It doesn't bear that conclusion out.
The court recently announced that it is going to try to expedite or make it easier to resolve small claims complaints. Can you explain that to our audience? Because that's the court that the public's most likely to have some contact with.
Yes, it's all about leveraging technology, and that's what we're doing. Whether it's the small claims operations of doing those virtually, or whether it's infraction tickets. I don't know if you know this, but if you are speeding and you get an infraction ticket, you can actually now work that out online with a prosecutor. Now we started that program before COVID came out, but there's something I've been hearing from courts around the country, which is this is not the disruption we wanted, but it may be the disruption that we needed, because we have to modernize all our systems. If you think about things like access to justice, people used to have to come to court time and time and time again. Let's talk about that infraction situation. You might have to take 3, 4, 5 days off of work sometimes to resolve an infraction. Now, I don't live paycheck to paycheck, so I can do that, and I have the kind of job that will understand that. But some people do live paycheck to paycheck, and a day off of work can mean some really damaging things for their family. So that if we can get better about doing things like that, make less physical court appearances, do them virtually, I think that actually creates a situation where you have more access to justice. So that's why we say things like, this isn't the disruption that we wanted, but this may have been the disruption we needed to really look at the entire system and modernize it.
Well, maybe that would be one positive outcome of all this. Chief Justice Robinson, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
When Face the State returns, are you worried your favorite restaurant might not survive the pandemic?
We'll talk about how Connecticut's restaurant industry can endure the growing pandemic when we come back.